arrive, you can add them.
And we are live.
Okay, welcome everybody to the September 20th, 2021 meeting of the Annapolis Transportation Board. It's nice to see you after a month's hiatus in August when we all took a vacation. I don't think we'll have a show and tell for our vacation activities, but we'll plunge into the agenda right away. And the first item is the call to order and roll call. Vince Harriman has been facing a number of burdens, as sometimes happens to all of us. And Carol Kelly has kindly consented to relieve him of some of those burdens so that he doesn't have quite so many balls in the air. And if it is agreeable to everybody on the board, we will make Carol our new secretary. Vince, would you like to say something?
No, just much appreciated, Kurt and Carol.
Okay. Well, since we have a volunteer for a task which is only onerous and carries very little reward, I will entertain a motion for making Carol the secretary of the Annapolis Transportation Board.
Please.
I'll move if that's needed, or I'll second Beth's. How about that?
Okay. Thank you. Discussion? Seeing none.
Beth moved, I think, didn't she?
Sure,
And I
I
seconded.
moved.
Okay, Beth is now Jim.
Yes. We've got a messed up system here.
Well, maybe Josh can relabel you. I don't know whether he can or not. But at any rate, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion has carried. Congratulations, Carol. And she is already taking notes.
Thank you.
Moving back in time.
Yes.
Been
So-
here before, Carol.
You know, it feels good when you're 81 years old almost to be going backwards.
Mhm. So you can take the notes on who's here, and I'll actually speak the names right now. I'll go through the list in order of war. Beth Dolezal, are you here?
Yes,
He is.
I'm sorry.
Kurt Riegel is here. Tom Schock is, I think, not here at the moment. Elvia Thompson,
Here,
Jessica Charles Allen, not here. Charles Brooks, not here. Kara Fleck-Plewinski, not here. I hope some of these guys will be joining us as the minutes count up. David DeQuincio, not here. Carol Kelly is. Vince Harriman,
Here.
John Purnell,
Here.
and Zoe.
Here.
All right, thanks so much. The approval of the minutes. Actually, let's go to the agenda first. I left it off the actual agenda. Are there any changes, additions anyone would like to make to the agenda? And I do have your note, John. I will get to that. That will the speaker item.
Okay.
Is there anything else? No. So motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Okay. And all in favor?
I
Aye. Thank you. So we have two sets of minutes for June and July distributed. I hope you've had a chance to look at them. After any discussion you would like to offer for those 2 months of minutes, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes as distributed.
I'll move the approval of the 2 months of minutes.
Seconded.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Who was
Minutes.
the second? Zoe,
Beth,
Zoe.
Beth.
Beth, what you
Oh.
sounded like.
Zoe's got a much softer voice than I do.
Beth beat me to it.
Okay. The next item, thank you so much. The next item is public participation. This is where we normally put the speaker, and none are scheduled for this month, but I'd like to turn to a leftover from last month's meeting. That is the June meeting. We had all agreed that it would be sensible to invite somebody from the garage slash city dock development effort to come to speak to us. And we haven't done that. And Zoe, I think, may be in the best position among us to find such a person and persuade that person to come and speak to us. Am I correct, Zoe?
You are correct. And I apologize if I dropped the ball. I think the month hiatus on our meetings, I lost my momentum. So I will reach out and find the best person to present at our next meeting. But in the meantime, I would encourage folks to go back or go into YouTube and listen to last week's Planning Commission presentation. It is live. I mean, on YouTube Live, it's recorded, where they presented on the latest plans for the parking garage. And then I think that there is another meeting, maybe this week, Carol mentioned. I can send out an announcement when I find it. But for those who really want to kind of dig in a little bit more on the nuts and bolts and land use and stormwater and design parameters that are being considered by the city, I would encourage you to take a look at that presentation. And then I think between now and when we set up the meeting, we should help the speaker, whoever, or maybe would help figure out the best speaker, would be to kind of identify what issues we are interested in hearing about. Sort of ingress, egress, traffic flow, parking spaces, how they going to handle parking while the garage is under construction. What are the aspects that's related to transportation that we're most interested in? I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, it would be helpful. What this group is dealing with covers a very large universe of items, and we need to pare it down to those that are transportation related. Can you do that on your own, Zoe? Or do you need us to do something?
No, I just think keep those kind of things in mind I can kind of give the speaker a sense of what our interest probably will likely be, unless someone has something they're real pressing interest. But I think our comments should sort of stay within the realm of transportation and not vary into other areas. I mean, they are presenting to the Historic Preservation Commission and the Planning Commission, and there's a lot of other city review that's ongoing. So but I will look for a speaker, and I will commit to getting them on our agenda for October.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. The next item is report from committees and members of those committees. And the first item on the list is fare free transit. There have been at least 2 meetings involving members of the Troika presently working on this. Beth Dolezal, John Purnell, and me. And John, since you are probably, why don't you summarize where we are, and Beth and I will chime in and supplement as needed.
all right, I'll see how I do. I'll try and keep it brief. We have very good response from Jody Dickerson at City Finance, who has provided us the financial raw data that we requested. It was as requested, and it is delivered pretty raw, and I've been working with her to summarize it, but it covers everything from the circulator to advertising to a variety of different things. I also have Kwaku's ridership data. I haven't incorporated that in the model yet, but we have ridership data. I can say now with some degree of accuracy that the percentage of revenue that comes from cash in the fare box is in the neighborhood of 6.5 to 5.2, it varies, against total revenue. Most of our revenue, the vast majority of our revenue comes from grants and funding from the county and state level and from the general fund. Subject, I don't want to quite delve into at the moment, but that's one of the major sources of it. And the fare box represents a very, very small number. I did that same calculation as a percentage of cost, and our percentage of cost went anywhere from 3.2% to 6% over the last 4 years. So we have a good model, baseline model that covers the pre-COVID quarters. We have it by quarter and the post-COVID quarters. So we're ready to do projections for what would free fare do to our economics. We have twice met with, I think, the Annapolis Transportation Department, Kwaku in particular. Is Kwaku one of them? There he is.
Yes, he has appeared.
Right on schedule, right on cue. And Kwaku's been remarkably helpful. We are at this point looking to work out a means of estimating change in ridership from free fare. We're looking at advertising as a potential game changer for cost. I'm not confident that's going to result in anything, but I'm a dog with a bone, and I'm going to continue pursuing any possible extra ad revenue we could get. There are cost reductions that we're in the process of getting rid of, one of which is I'm not sure if it's Brinks, but the Brinks type service that picks up the cash can be eliminated. There's some fare box cost, maintenance cost that can be eliminated. It does turn out that our fare boxes seem to be removed from old buses and installed on new buses. So there's no lower capital cost by going free fare. We bought the fare machines, there was some cost, and other than their maintenance and so forth, that's it. Did that cover all the cost elements we were talking about last week?
I think so.
Oh,
Yeah.
Beth is on mute. Or Jim's on mute, depending upon who she is right now.
Changed my name and I said, well, I was having so much trouble getting on, I wasn't going to change anything. Sorry about that, guys. I've done some of the one task that I was tasked to do since we met with Kwaku, if you want me to add that at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Sure.
I have talked with Ashley Leonard, and she's going to look into the contract with the state for bringing their workers from the stadium to the offices. And she said, which is obvious, she said that contract's been in place forever. It just keeps rolling over. Nobody ever really looks at it. So she's going to really look at it. She said that she isn't sure that even the current contract that we couldn't, that we can't keep it, even if we go free fare. And I made suggestions of what we thought, if that didn't work, what we could do. And she said,
I'm sorry, did you say that she thought there would be a problem in continuing it?
no, no, she didn't think there would be a problem continuing it, even if we went for free fare.
Well, that's good news.
It's okay, but she didn't know. So she's,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah,
she's
I think that's early results aren't
Yes.
reliable
Yeah.
necessarily.
yes. And she said that she's going to look into it fully. She was going to talk. She's not going to do it till the end of the week because she's part of the primary election. She's got to be on board for that right now. But she said by the end of the week, she will have looked into it. She's going to talk with Kwaku about who he contacts at the state so that she knows, you know, who to get with. We also talked about the shelters and about the advertising in the shelters and how the shelters work in the city, because we used to have lots of shelters and now we don't have that many. Well, that's because they went over, as Kwaku said, to this system where the advertiser provides the shelter rather than the city providing the shelter. And the advertiser is providing the shelters based on what they think the ridership is. And that's why there's only not so many shelters. And so she's going to look into that. And I said one of the things, and where we can possibly talk with the advertiser about, hey, if we go to free fare, the historically ridership picks up, can we get more shelters here? Because who wants to stand out in the rain and the snow and the ice and the cold to wait for the bus? And you see it in various places that way. I mean, I'm not saying there'll be a shelter everywhere, but we certainly could try to add more shelters in places where people actually do take the bus. So she's going to look into that after she looks into the contract with the state, and she's going to get back to me. So, because that is one of our biggest stumbling blocks, is the fact that the state provides approximately $265K every year to the bus system for this free, to take their people free from the stadium to the office buildings and back. And we want to be sure we can keep that contract and keep that money to, if we go free fare. So we have to figure out how to do that. That's a very important function for us. So that's why that is so important.
Thanks, Beth. That's very good. By the way, Kwaku has his hand up. He may have a remark.
Kwaku.
Yeah.
I can't see Kwaku. Oh, there he is.
There he is.
Just for clarification purposes, for the DGS contract, I think what Ashley meant is that it's been with the city for a very long time.
Yeah,
we
she
actually look at it every year. A couple of years, it was kind of amended. But every year, if you look at the contract, there is a table which has some cost information and service hours. So every year we do look at it, but I think what Ashley meant is that even when I got here, that contract was in place between the city and DGS. But we do look at the actual agreement every year. We go back to renew it, but that relationship has been here for a very, very long time.
Yeah, Kwaku.
That's a point of clarification.
Yeah, I don't think she meant that it was ignored. She just meant that she said it's been there for a long, long time. And basically, it just keeps rolling over. It doesn't mean you don't look at it or anything.
Okay.
But it just keeps rolling over. So she needs to relook and really delve into it as to what we can or cannot do, because we haven't thought about this before. So that hasn't been an aspect of the contract that we've thought about or took into consideration. So she needs to do that. But yeah, she didn't mean that nobody paid any attention to it and it just kept going. Nobody, Kwaku, knowing you, are you kidding? Nothing gets past Kwaku.
Put Beth's numbers in perspective. That's right, $265,000 per annum from the state is a little more than the average we're getting in the fare box. The fare box on average for the last 4 years is $191,000. Last year, 2021, which ended in June, was our worst year. And that's obviously the damage from COVID, because COVID only affected really 1/4 of fiscal 2020. So if you look at the average in those earlier years in fiscal 2018 and 2019, our average was a little better than that, more like, looks like about 250, 270 kind of numbers. So the point that Beth is making is the state shuttle is almost equal in revenue to everything we get in the fare box. So preserving it is important. And if we feel that legally we cannot continue that when we offer free fare, we've essentially doubled our hurdle of trying to recoup the money that we have to get.
And I'm sure we will be alert to any possibilities for other sources of revenue that might help to defray the loss.
I have one more kind of point of clarification regarding the advertising. I think I don't know whether I got it wrong, but the current advertising on the buses and the bus shelters, the bus shelters are our own shelters. Prior to that, it was Clear Channel that actually built the shelters and advertised on them. But right now, the bus sub shelter that we have belong to the department. The city did buy about 10 of them with its own money. And we have about 30 that are actual, I think that's what Beth was referring to. There are about 30 that were put in by the advertising company. I think it's called Creative Outdoor Advertising, that they actually advertise on it and give the city a portion of that. That is very, very small amount of money. But there
are they city property now?
Now.
I'm sorry, what?
They have not been actually hand over to the city yet.
I see.
So talking about actually looking into that, you may want to ask her also to look into that particular agreement between Creative Outdoor Advertising and the city. The other remaining 30, it's about 40, I would say that, were bought with grant funds. And that one, together with the advertising on the buses, are under contract. So that one is where, John, if you look at the advertising revenue,
right,
whatever that you get is essentially from the buses, advertising on the buses, and then the bus stop shelter that we do have, that also had the advertising.
So the ones that it's the buses and the shelters we own generate the revenue line for advertising.
Exactly.
But the clear connection or the outdoor clear advertising, whatever what it was, does not generate any revenue, but didn't have any cost.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks so much. The only other thing that I would like to add briefly is that we had an additional meeting with the Director of Transportation for Anne Arundel County. And we're delighted to hear that they are ahead of us. They have implemented fare-free transit for Anne Arundel County. It's a fact right now, although it has an expiration date. I think they're going to try to extend it beyond the expiration date, which presently prevails. But we have a model to look for, and they're following a trend which is accelerating around the country. I think that's the way most cities are going to go eventually, and I hope we can find a way of getting on board. I'd like to.
Can I say one thing about that though?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't do it for the same reasons that we want to do it though. They did it because of COVID, and they were trying to follow the CDC recommendations of not having people cluster close together and to have them be farther apart and such. And they also don't have that many buses. And so they decided that it was worth it to them to go and fare free. They also don't have the kind of fare boxes we do. They just drop the money in. They're like dump boxes, he said, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why they intend to have, at the turn of the year, they intend to go back to charging fares again. And they also haven't done real advertising in any way that their buses are fare free. It's just as they've put buses back online and geared up on their routes again, they make note that the buses are currently fare free, but they're not doing it for the reasons we're wanting to do it, or in the extent that
that's certainly an important reason, and that's one of the arguments I think that pertains to Annapolis. Annapolis has had a similar decline in revenues, so that the fare box during COVID was less important than it was at other times anyway. And so it became less and less important to actually collect fares. And then the distancing, the need to try to get people on and off the buses quickly and to maintain distancing and so forth was a factor. That was certainly important, but I earnestly hope that the other long-term objectives will be embraced by the county. And I think there's at least some chance that will happen. Can we move on then to the next item, which is bicycles? I sent something around to all of you. The Bicycle Advisory Commission of Anne Arundel County has formally transmitted its recommendation to the county that it basically mirror everything that the city of Annapolis has done with respect to bicycles on sidewalks. They have adopted an ordinance, which is similar to our own, that now makes it more possible to put bicycles on sidewalks than the legislation before permitted. And they also have transmitted a recommendation to the mayor, to the county executive and county council that they join us in calling on the state to reverse the default setting of state law, which is that bicycles on sidewalks are forbidden unless allowed, and change that to allowed unless forbidden. So that will be useful armament for our delegation in the state legislature to make that small change in state law. That's all I had on bicycles. Does anybody else, Vince or Zoe?
I don't have anything yet today.
I have an unfortunate update on the 450 King George Street bike path project that we were working on, sort of encouraging with the city and the state in Anne Arundel County. The state's bicycle transportation fund is out of money for FY22, and so it doesn't look like they can put money towards or committing to that project, the last we heard, until FY23. So Anne Arundel County had put money and has money in their budget that went into effect on July 1st, and they are trying to work to identify if they can continue doing some of the feasibility study. The next phase of the project is the preliminary assessment. They're looking to see if they can fund a portion of that so we can keep the momentum going and not lose a year in funding until SHA can secure funds in their FY23 budget.
What's the dollar amount involved, Zoe?
I don't have that. The Navy met with the city last week, and we talked about that, and we were trying to get that number so that we can begin to push a little bit, but and also identify sort of if there are any leverage points to, put in a more formal request to the state for funding for FY22. But that's sort of where we are at the moment.
Yeah, I encourage you to push as hard as you can, and it would be nice to find a way to restore that. I express my frustration over the difficulty of obtaining one by one funding for these tiny little projects that are way lost in the noise over the billions of dollars that are spent on the automotive component of transportation. And it would be nice if we can somehow establish a permanent and stable fund for financing these kinds of improvements. Anything else on bicycles? Vince, you had something for the Melvin Avenue acquisition of the bicycle right-of-way. Has anything happened on that?
Yeah, it's been totally removed. I think they removed it at the beginning or at the end of July. So it's been clear, and they've even done a better job of parking their trucks. So I have nothing but praise, even though I haven't had any ice cream since my very first trip there, where I saw you actually, Kurt.
Yes.
Well, Vince, if you had anything to do with the fact that he moved the ice cream truck from the corner so I can see around it every day when I come home from work, I thank you.
Exactly. It's terrible. And it's, as you know, I don't know who else lives in West Annapolis or on on this side, but that intersection just grows more and more dangerous every day. People don't stop when they're coming down Annapolis Street westbound. So yes, it's essential that sightlines remain open there.
Well, thanks a lot. A problem has gone away. Next item on the agenda under unfinished business is first the comprehensive plan, which is kind of a held item there. I'm not sure that we have any action. Is there anything to report by anybody on the comprehensive plan for the city of Annapolis?
I have something to report. So I think it may have closed last week, or maybe it's into this week. They were looking for comments on the goals and objectives and outcomes.
It was
And-
on Friday, Zoe.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I'm going to reference the comp plan in my round the table report. So
Okay.
That might be something that you all could speak to.
Yeah, I went ahead and reviewed it from a Navy perspective, and I didn't see any concerns. I thought, it's pretty general at this point, but I'll let Carol, I don't want to steal Carol's thunder, but that's
No,
the only
but
update I have.
This helps. So you've looked at it and not commented from the Navy perspective, right?
Yeah, there were no comments from the Navy's perspective on the comp plan, the current objectives, and I didn't see anything of real significance that I would think from a transportation board I would feel passionate that we needed to comment on. But maybe there's something missing. Maybe it doesn't say enough.
Okay,
That's all I have.
thanks. Let's go around the table. Zoe, you're at the top of the list. Do you have anything else?
The project that the Department of Defense funded to the city of Annapolis to do sort of resiliency assessments outside of our fence line and to fund intelligent transportation signals has kicked off. The first planning and technical meeting will be October 1st. So we will get an update from the contractor on their assessments of transportation signals and prioritization of those signals and ultimately this project is going to be leading to a way of the city managing and coordinating and upgrading signals for purposes such as reverse flow and emergency response, and can also help with timing and sequencing and ultimately reducing idle time if the signals all can be coordinated. So there's a lot that by having intelligence transportation signals can bring to a community. And so we're just beginning that project, and the DoD funding is actually supporting the city on the design aspect of that. So more to come, but the project is moving forward. It had a bit of a lag due to COVID, but the first technical committee meeting is in October.
Can you give us just the briefest tutorial on what an intelligent signal is? I assume it involves sensors and algorithms.
Something like that, yes. That's basically, I think they can be monitored and as a system. But that might be a good presentation as they get farther along. What is one and how do they work?
Yeah.
They can all be coordinated. Right now, I don't know if they can be changed on the fly, the timing.
I guess the old-fashioned notion was that somebody was watching screens and controlling signals from a master console, but I assume that has progressed to artificial intelligent algorithms that do this automatically.
Well, today
Yeah,
would have been a great time for something like that to be in place. There was an accident on Forest Drive, and it just made a gridlock out of this whole area of town.
Yeah.
Yep.
So anyway, so I think there's a lot of promise. The Navy, we were able to really support the funding through DoD because of for the purposes of evacuation and response. But there's so many other, benefits that these will bring. So I'll keep everybody apprised of the project as it moves forward.
Thanks. Vince, you are next on the list. He may have stepped out for the moment.
No, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here. I just muted. And sorry about my phone ringing there. No, I've been reading up more on how to do better just with city design in general, and learning a lot from Alex Pline and John Corin. So I'm hoping to have a lot more to talk about next month.
At the last meeting, you introduced the interesting and difficult problem of the effect of Waze and other routing apps on congestion. Do you have any recommendations for how we should progress on this? Is this something we should?
No, and I thank you for reminding me. I have been thinking a lot about that, and it's a very difficult problem because jurisdictions like ours have so little power with regard to giant multinational corporations that have algorithms that function, across jurisdictions and across country lines. Even to me, it's a huge and difficult problem in terms of how even to approach it. So I'm still looking at what it even means and if it's even a viable thing to spend time on.
Great. If and when you come to a conclusion that we can do something useful, let us know.
Yep.
All right. Tom Schock appears not to be here. I'm here. I have nothing else to say. John Purnell?
I have two contributory things. One is I rode the green bus home tonight as part of my continuing to understand and appreciate our transportation system. Very nice. Had a very nice conversation with a regular rider.
Good timing, John. Wait till you hear my little spiel when I report to you.
I can't wait. The second one is, I don't know if you were aware of this, there was an accident downtown tonight. A driver lost control of their vehicle and drove into Buddy's. Did you know that?
Into Buddy's?
This morning, into Buddy's. They demolished the front door of Buddy's.
He really likes crabs.
Well, he really doesn't know the difference between brakes and gas pedals, I think is the problem here. So that created a lot of disruption downtown to go with the Forest Drive disruption, Elvira. Those are my two things.
Okay.
I
Thanks,
drove
John.
up Main Street today and I saw nothing. So they did a good cleanup and whatever they had to do because there was.
I don't see how they got around all the barricades that are there that are
That's right.
making those
They're right
eating
in front of-
areas,
Yeah.
those Jersey barriers, but they did, and I could see where the brick pillar of the front door of the place is all crushed in.
Oh my.
I didn't even notice.
Oh yeah, it's
Okay.
all blocked off.
Okay.
Next is Jessica Charles Allen, who is not here, and Elvia. I have a challenge for you after you speak. What's up?
Okay. Well, about a week and a half ago, Senator Van Hollen showed up at City Dock to talk about the City Dock program project. He talked with the owner of one of the stores there, the hot dog place, right there at City Dock on Dock Street. And then he gave a little talk.
Yes.
Yeah. Then he gave a little talk at Susan Campbell Park. And of course, what was of special interest to me was that he talked about how some of the federal money is going to be used for electric car infrastructure. So that was great. So that was a perfect segue into me telling you that my nonprofit is doing an electric car show this Sunday at City Dock, and Senator Van Hollen will open that.
Wonderful.
Along with the mayor and Stuart Pittman and Ben Grumbles, the Secretary of the Environment. So I hope you'll all come. It's from 10 to 2 and should be very interesting and fun too. We're going to have some seminars and some other things.
Did you say Saturday or Sunday?
Sunday 10 to 2.
That's going to be a great event.
Well,
you are doing wonderful stuff.
well,
with your
thanks. The
group.
city threw a little bit of a monkey wrench into all this because I had planned to have about 20 cars on the bricked area at Susan Campbell Park. And they told me that it's sinking. The bricks are sinking and I can't have more than 10 cars on the bricks.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Oh my. The challenge that I referred to is the following. You're doing great stuff on your own and with your organization. It would be nice if you could think about how we can help. What can the transportation board do? And I wondered, for example, should we be thinking about recommendations to the city that would go into the permitting process for businesses and development. For example, we have parking requirements. Should those parking requirements be amended to put in a requirement for charging stations, that sort of thing? Is there something, as we look to the future, that we should be recommending to the city for how they handle cars that presently don't need to plug in?
Yeah, well, there are a lot of issues related to that. One is people who want to go electric but don't have off-street parking at all.
Right.
So how are they going to charge from home? So what people are doing all around town is they're running an extension cord from their house out to their car over the sidewalk, and then they put a don't trip strip on top of it. And of course, the city says, you can't do that. You can't do that. Well, everybody's doing that.
Right.
So allowing for charging to be, like in the best of all worlds, a charging station on every block that people could use as they come and go would be terrific.
Yeah. Or channels in the sidewalks to accommodate that kind of thing.
To allow people to do it, to let them
Right.
trench under the sidewalk. Why not?
Yeah. Or, I mean, there are a variety of recommendations you can conceive of and that we might pass on. So if you
Yeah,
wanna...
well, number one would be, how about electrifying the fleet?
Mhm.
I know that Jackie Gild is working on that, but I think she's getting pushback from department heads. And the police in particular, we're going to have one and possibly two different police jurisdictions from around the state coming to the show to show off their electric patrol cars. Why can't we do that here? I mean, I've got, what is this, my third police chief now, where I've been trying to convince him that this would be a good idea.
Right.
So,
well, think about the weight of the transportation board. Should we be taking formal action, transmitting our own resolutions?
If I tell you a quick story, because I think that it has to start at the city level, and I'll tell you why. I'm in construction, and one of my biggest projects over the last couple of years is a very large senior multifamily in Princeton, and the developers are Texas based. And when we first got involved in the building, when I first got involved in the building, we have over 300 units in the building, and they have 12 charging stations. And I said, things are a little bit different here in the mid-Atlantic, and particularly in a place like Princeton, New Jersey. It's a very blue state, and it's a very blue town, and you're going to find a lot more demand for, and they were not interested. They didn't want to hear anything about, they had calculated it. I don't know how they had come up with 12 stations for a building of 300, but they thought that that was more than adequate and that it would never change. And would say often in meetings that we had, I never see a Tesla in Dallas.
Well, Dallas, Austin is about to send a boatload of Teslas to us from Austin.
Yeah, there's the irony, right? Is they're building
the Gigafactory,
right? But their personal experience in the north of Dallas, where they live, was that they don't typically see hybrids or electric vehicles. And I said, well, in my neighborhood alone, I can throw a rock and hit a couple.
Well, Vince, the market is going to take care of that, because when the manufacturers all stop making industrial, ICE cars, internal combustion engines, then that's just going to push it. So now we had legislation in Maryland last year, and honestly, I can't remember if it passed or not, but it was about requiring pre-wiring for EV charging in new construction. You don't have to install the charger, just wire for it, and that involves the circuit box and all that. And I honestly don't remember if it passed or not, but those are the kinds of things that'll make a difference too.
Absolutely.
And when the city rewires Main Street or other streets too, maybe we should be putting in the wiring, if not the charging stations at parking meters.
Mm-hmm. Or at least light poles. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks, Elvia. The next is David DeQuincio, who's not here. Charles Brooks is here. Welcome, Charles. You are muted. I don't know whether you're speaking or not, but he's definitely, Carol, you should mark him as attending if he.
I am.
Charles, are you there with anything to say? He may be away. That being the case, Carol, you're up.
Well, I've had a very pleasant day and didn't encounter any crashes into buddies, quite the opposite. I began work a couple of weeks ago on this ferry idea, and it comes really from a personal perspective. I don't know if any of you have had the opportunity yet to fall off your chair when I say that I lived on this island that the Statue of Liberty is on for 10 years. So I commuted by ferry in New York Harbor for those 10 years. And in fact, know a considerable amount and have had a great deal of experience with small ferries in not just large congested places like Manhattan, but into New Jersey and areas where ferries go from central places like downtown Manhattan. So it was a personal interest that took me into looking at this subject. My first step was a couple of weeks ago, I sent an email with pretty considerable explanatory material in it to Debbie Gosselin, who's the owner of Watermark, because obviously there's a ferry sitting at Watermark. And I was able to be, clear and very idealistic in the email, but made it clear that the Transportation Board is interested in this topic, and that we're looking for more in any ways that we can streamline mobility in Annapolis. I never heard back from Debbie. I know her. I've had an acquaintance with her from the time that I was at Chase Home, and she's obviously involved in historic interpretation. So I felt comfortable approaching her, and I will, continue to seek out what her thoughts are on the possibilities for, a larger scale creation of some sort of ferry system in Annapolis and possibly out of Annapolis into the larger Bay Area. So then I sat down and came up with a set of other people I would talk to or groups I would approach. The water taxi is partly where I got this idea from originally. Those of you, do you all know about the water taxi being able to go at least from downtown Annapolis to Back Creek and Watergate? But it's certainly a model for things that could be done elsewhere in town, particularly to bring people to the center of town, which is, what is crucial here. I'd talk to the harbor master, I'd certainly look into what the county and the state are doing in terms of water access. You all may know as well that there's a considerable history with ferries on Chesapeake Bay and in regard to Annapolis particularly. So given that the times are changing and there is a historic precedent, it's something that might be brought to the attention of the public in this initiative. And then I sent an email to Eric Lashinsky because certainly planning and zoning would want to be involved in this. And I also know that planning and zoning is working with, again, Eileen Fogarty in the Annapolis Maritime Task Force. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that project, but it's Robert Moses-like in my terms. There is considerable thought and planning being given now to developing the shoreline and the maritime area, particularly in Eastport, to benefit the maritime industry here, but as well as the public by using whatever improvements are made to give more benefits and accommodation to the public and the visiting public. So it's a big, Robert Moses kind of thinking project right now, but it's beginning to take shape. Well, I got an answer from Eric immediately in regard to my quiet suggestion that I was, wondering about ferries in Annapolis. That commission, that task force has in fact taken up the matter of excuse me, I can't talk for very long. without water, taken up that matter. It's on their, it's on their plan, in their plan. Excuse me, just a second. So to make this long story short and not have to talk too much more, Eric is going to present to us not only what the task force is doing in regard to water access, specific to Annapolis, but conceivably in the think tank way to beyond Annapolis. But he's going to do it as part of the comprehensive plan. This whole subject matter could be incorporated into the plan. And he, in fact, assured me that I was not too late to get comments into the comprehensive plan request for comments, which ended on Friday, regarding this idea, regarding water transportation. So I'm asking all of you, and I realize this is pretty short notice, and I want to send something to Eric tomorrow because he's going to lift the deadline a little bit to speak to what we might want to consider as a board in regard to this. I don't think any longer as such a wild and crazy Robert Moses kind of idea. So if you have any suggestions, I'll certainly take those comments down and incorporate them into what I send to Eric tomorrow.
Well, Carol, I can tell you that every time Gavin opens his mouth, he talks about the electric ferry. So he's very enthusiastic about it.
And what's behind that?
He made it sound like it was his idea. So I don't know exactly where it came from.
I mean, my apology at the beginning of this, my comments is that when I realized that this was a kind of far-reaching notion, at least I thought it was at that point. And I'm familiar with Gavin's, tendency to do the same kind of far-reaching idea making. But it was very encouraging to hear that a group as seriously organized, they include members of the Park Service at the administrative level, is working on this. And knowing what that group and members of that group did in their role on the city dock action group is very heartening that something might come out of this.
Do these discussions include vessels that move not only people but also cars? What
Well,
is the
that's
scope?
certainly something that would have to be part of the the nitty-gritty conversation that planners and people at the table would bring to bear. And I'm sure even with the task force, it is still in a very early conceptual stage.
But there's no serious proposal at this stage for moving cars, is there?
No, but there's a serious proposal for reducing cars in downtown Annapolis.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Thank you,
I-
Carol.
I have one more thing to say, and this
Yeah.
is in line with another comment that I made or interaction with John. Partly, I guess, because of the long period of quarantine I've been in, I do a lot of reflective thinking. And it occurs to me to say to this board, I have now gone back onto the bus. I didn't ride the bus, any bus, green bus, orange bus, brown bus for over a year, and I went back. And so I'm calling on all of you, based on my own experience, to find ways in which you can ride the bus occasionally, possibly like John did, maybe just to your doctor's appointment, because it's easy if your doctor is at AAMC or to the hairdresser or to the mall. Just find the details and the location, the logistics of getting on an Annapolis bus and riding somewhere easily, and get familiar with the service that's provided. It's also a community building activity. Going back after a year from being away, I realized that I have only a few close friends in Annapolis, but I have lots of acquaintances in Annapolis. And many of those acquaintances come from my having ridden a bus in this town for 20 years. And in fact, Charles Brooks is someone I know because we met on a bus. So in this advocacy mode, and I don't feel uncomfortable because we do a lot of bicycle advocacy around here. I encourage you to use the public transportation in town, not by compromising your car driving. Usually I excuse my role because I don't own a car, but you can use the bus as well as own a car and contribute not just to public transit in Annapolis, but in a certainly much more community idealistic way. I think you will contribute to a shrinking of the difference.
Yeah, thank you, Carol. That's really, I'm so glad you are encouraging us to do that. I second the sentiment, and will try to do more myself.
Good.
Charles Brooks has his hand up, and then John Purnell. Charles, we can't hear you.
Yeah, I'm fixing that right now.
Okay.
I'm going to have John go first. John's hand has been up longer than mine. So.
All right.
All right, it should be pretty quick. But Elvia set out a challenge to electrify the fleet. And that reminded me that Kwaku gave a presentation on electrifying the bus fleet. Kwaku, can we get an update on how that is going? Did it get approved by City Council? Do you have dates when you're going to put electric buses in service? Can you give us a little update on that?
Okay, thank you, John. The presentation was to give council an idea how much it will cost if we are going to electrify the fleet, which we plan to. So what we plan to do is that the FTA has a special grant for battery electric buses that comes around in the spring. So we plan to apply for the no grants. That will be a huge financial relief for the city. As at now, if we are to use, and we can use our current grant for vehicle replacement, which we did apply for in FY 2022. We have been notified that we will be awarded, but based upon the price of a clean diesel bus. However, if the city has enough money, they can add to whatever capital grant that we get to start ordering the electric buses. So where we are now is the fact that at this time, I don't know, now I have not seen any documentation that says that the city is committing X amount of dollars to the electrification of the fleet. Based upon that, we are going to rely mostly on grants. I also have indicated to the board before that MTA is writing new specifications for rolling stock, where all transit agencies, big and small in the state, can piggyback on that. In that new specifications, we have different type of powertrains. We have CNG buses. Of course, we will have the diesel buses on. We will also have electric buses in the mix. And I did ask them, if you choose to buy electric bus, do you get more money? All that they did was just to laugh at it. The transit agencies are having their conferences, annual conference starting tomorrow on Kent Island, tomorrow through Thursday. And I do expect MTA to give us an update in terms of the plans to basically have this rolling stock contract that includes electric buses. So where we stand now is money. If we get the go ahead from council with the funding, we will start the procurement process to order our first transit buses.
So your question was, who's asking for the money? Are you asking for it? Should the transportation board be asking for it? Who should be asking the city to pony up the money?
No, we did, and we did tell them that if you want to get the first electric buses ordered in FY 2022, this is how much we will expect to receive from the city. So we have asked for that. At this time, no response. I believe that once we get the capital grant award with the grant agreement, that conversation will come up, And then at that time, the city has to make determination whether they want to add the extra money in order to place the orders for the first electric buses.
Waku, I thought that part of the issue was that we can't get any grant money for smaller buses. The transit buses are 40-foot buses, not great for our historic streets. So has that changed since we talked?
Now, what we said was that at that time, earlier on, the sizes of the electric buses that I knew of were the smallest one was 35-foot bus and up. Since that time, I have been, and I did talk to the manufacturer, BYD, actually has a 30-foot transit bus. And that's all that they have. That's the smallest one that they have. There is another company that has teamed up with, I believe, I forget the name of the manufacturer, that are doing electric bus on Ford F-350 and Ford F-450. But the range is only about 67 miles. And this small bus costs around almost $300,000. And given the range and the price, we don't see the value in that. But we still continue to look for information and evaluate options in terms of where we can go. I believe that our best option would be when the state puts out their contract that includes electric buses, so that we can piggyback on that. And if you are wondering the timeline, I believe that by the end of FY 2023, the state may have a contract in place that includes electric buses that we can buy off if we have the money.
Okay.
That's good. So all that is much more positive information than we had even just a short time ago. So that's great.
Yeah.
All right. Charles, your hand is up.
We had mentioned the electric buses for quite some time. It's been discussed as much as 20 years ago, but this ferry idea, we don't really have that large of a waterway. So what I'm wondering is, how is this going to be feasible? And we have water taxis already. They barely have traffic on them. I see them nightly working at my part-time job at Pussers. They might have half of a water taxi full. Where's the profitability for the city for this? And again, your electric buses are starting at about 350 grand. The first set of buses that were looked at were about 900,000 per bus. Where's the money going to come from?
Yeah.
The transit department doesn't get that much of the money from the city's budget as it is. And
can I offer an answer to that question? If I remember from Kwaku's presentation, I thought it was a good presentation, the capital costs for the buses are higher, but the operating costs are lower. Is that correct, Kwaku?
I can tell you that, yes, they are.
Yeah, that's what he said.
And you save both. Obviously, we're not buying fuel, and the maintenance costs are much lower because there's far fewer moving parts in the electric buses. So there is an economic trade-off. The question is the city finance and structured to look at a life cycle cost like that and say, yeah, we may spend twice. And I remember the number being around 600,000 for a big bus, for a 35-foot bus. But we may make all that back over the life of the bus with maintenance savings and fuel savings.
There's also the societal benefits of not having all those toxic emissions. If you've ever driven behind one of our city buses, the diesel buses, it's awful. So, and a lot of those buses go in low income neighborhoods where people are breathing that stuff in. So,
yeah.
So you have to look at more than just the dollar bottom line. There's also the societal bottom line.
I grew up in one of those
environmental bottom
I'm
line.
very familiar with that.
All right. Thanks. Continuing down the list, Kara is not here. Beth, you're the last on our list around the table.
Well, I said all I had to say. So, because it's all fare free, and so I don't have anything else to add at all.
Thank you. The update for the board from the transportation department is next. Kwaku.
Okay, thank you, Kurt. Sorry, I just sent you the monthly report. The interesting part of it is that.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. I hadn't seen it. We
Yeah,
may
I
be
sent
missing
it over.
a month or two of those. I should check.
Yeah, I did send you the June because the June one has your the fiscal year information that we can look at it as compared to the previous year. Of course, for the FY20 and FY21, because of COVID, kind of an anomaly or an outlier, but it gives an idea of what has happened. So you may want to take a look at that. The other thing is that we are still working on the micro transit pilot project. The hope is to use VIA because VIA is a subcontractor for the Hillman Parking Garage. So far, the information that we have received twice, in fact, we did ask them to revise it. Not very much impressed. The most troubling part is that the license is actually leased to you. They don't sell you the license for the technology to use for the micro transit. And the way that the price structure, the pricing is structured is that if you have fewer vehicles, they charge you very high per vehicle per month. So for instance, what I have seen on average, if you have 4 vehicles, you may pay about $700 to $800 a month per vehicle, in addition to your regular operating costs. So that came as a much of shock to us when you look at it. So we are also looking at Translog, which Prince George's County actually uses for its pilot micro transit. So we are looking at various options and see how to move forward. If it had not been the monthly licensing fee, then it's very reasonable. With the monthly licensing fee for small transit agencies, that is a huge cost. So that is one thing we are keeping our eyes on to see how we can actually lower that. They do not even offer for you to buy the license. For instance, our bus video surveillance system software, it came with the system, we pay for it, very little maintenance, and the only monthly charges we pay will be the data, which is like your cell phone. Every month you pay like X amount of dollars, which is bearable. Yeah. However, for the micro transit, it's a lot of money, especially the monthly charges. So we are still working on that. As soon as we have agreed on the terms of the service, I will give you an update. At that time, we will be able to share with you our implementation schedule and the zone that will be covered. The other thing is that, as Carol did indicate, I would strongly encourage every member to ride the bus because you have kind of experience in dealing with the bus. Because if you're talking about a bus and you don't ride it, you may not have a sense of what it is.
Amen.
I would strongly encourage members to ride it. I think I did provide you with passes that actually doesn't have expiring date, but if you do encounter any issue with that pass, just let the driver know that you are a member of the transportation board. He will call us back in the office. And
okay, we have several new members of the board who do not have those passes, and maybe they can contact you individually to arrange for that.
Sure, no problem with that.
And I promise not to make every one of my rides a ride as a transit board member until the free fare goes in. I will pay my fair share.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. I'd rather not be known as a transportation board member. I can get better intel by just riding the bus and talking to people.
I use it at appropriate times, and I get a great deal of cooperation from the transportation department.
Mr. Chair, may I make a motion?
Please do.
I think I still have the floor.
Oh, I'm sorry. Please finish, Kwaku.
Okay. One quick thing, which we have already mentioned, the electrification of the transit buses. we are still looking into that. Any opportunity that comes our way, we will look for that. Somebody did mention about the prices of these buses. Yes, the 35-footer ones, 35-foot buses are very costly. The ones that we look at from Pretoria and Gillick and others are around $800,000. The 30-foot one from BYD is around $550,000. But there is a huge initial cost in terms of the infrastructure for charges. And also bear in mind, if anything that comes to mind is the hurricane that passed through Annapolis that knocked up power. Because of that, we have to have a generator as a backup once we start procuring electric buses. So this makes the initial cost very huge. So that's something that we will continue to have that conversation. And hopefully you will have some kind of funding to start transitioning to zero emission vehicles. That's all that I have for now.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Kwaku.
you.
You covered quite a lot. And John, you had, actually, we're moving into new business. Is this the appropriate place to turn to you, John?
It's sort of tied into Kwaku's report, but it could be new business. That's
All
fine.
right.
I would like to move that the Transportation Board, in the course of the next 12 months, schedule one of its board meetings on board one of the transit buses.
Thank you.
How long are the routes long enough that we can have a walk?
Yeah, I think so. I think we could probably, we have to go around twice
brown-
maybe, but I think we could do it.
The brown
Yeah.
route is along, the purple route at night is.
Purple route's long, yeah.
is quite
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah, purple route is long, yes.
So I
Why-
agree.
why
I
do
totally
you-
agree. I think we should all
Why do you
have
want
this
to
shared
torture the
experience.
other passengers?
Maybe they would enjoy hearing us actually meet truly in public.
Then they'd get to know you and call you by name the next time you saw
But
them.
I didn't hear a second, so maybe my motion is.
I second
fail here. There we go.
All right.
So
Well,
that's the motion, that we hold a meeting aboard a bus. I'm serious about the
all right.
motion.
Any discussion before we vote? The only thing I would add is that, of course, there's the COVID complication, and some of us may not be entirely comfortable with that, but
Well, there's also the recording issue.
and the recording
Yes.
issue.
Well, we're not recording our in-person meetings. That's a
Oh,
city decision.
Oh, you mean,
Okay.
yeah, this is an ad hoc meeting, not an official thing, right?
It could also
Yeah.
be an ad hoc meeting. Yeah,
Yeah.
that would work.
Yeah. That's
I-
that's a little easier.
Yeah, I thought Elvia was talking about the fact that our bus video surveillance system both records voice and audio and video. So just FYI. And we do have
See, we're getting recorded.
so there is information once we enter the bus that okay, we have the video surveillance system working. So, but we have never listened to any conversation unless there is a court case where we would take the video to the courtroom for the judge to hear and see what actually happened. But just for information purposes.
John, I think it's a good idea, if only as a field trip rather than a formal meeting. But
Okay.
if you want to take the initiative to set up something that you think is sensible.
Well, my first thought is I think we probably wait till spring when hopefully the COVID situation is improving rather than disimproving. So I agree with you on that. And secondly, I'm sure Kwaku would be helpful in determining which bus, which route, what time, where we meet, how the logistics work. But I'll take that on. I'll set up an ad hoc meeting of the team to ride the bus, and we can make a big public display out of the damn thing.
Well, can
Well,
we have a vote
John-
on suggesting this suggested course?
I second it, or no, she already seconded,
Yeah.
oh yeah, would be a vote, okay.
Just hop
Okay.
on, Beth.
All right. All in
Hop
favor,
on the
aye?
bus.
Yeah, you didn't say all in favor, I was just waiting, so I thought maybe
All right.
there's something else we were supposed to do.
You'll
All
probably
opposed?
catch me there anyway. I ride every day.
There you go.
I saw at least 4 in favor.
Oh, more than that, I think
Yeah.
just about everybody was. John,
Okay.
Yeah.
No.
I was up there. I was there.
Okay, no opposition, I heard.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
All right.
Thanks very much. We are in the last item on the agenda, which is new business. Are there any items of new business that any of you would like to take up?
I just wanted to say one thing real quick. I'm not sure if this is new business or not, but what Kwaku was saying about if there's a hurricane, we need a generator backup to charge electric buses and all that kind of stuff. It goes the other way too.
Yes.
So if the buses are all charged up, they could be used to power, a limited number of buildings. So
I'll add that if we have lost electricity, unless the gas station has a generator, we can't pump the fuel, the diesel fuel either. Correct?
Yeah.
Because the pumps use electricity to pump.
Right.
Unless they have backup provisions, and I don't know whether.
And if that's the case, we've got a backup generator.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, well, generally, once you think of doing your plans for your electrification of the buses, backup generator is part of the plan. So
I think it's wise. I think you should do it because if we're in that kind of emergency, we're going to need our buses to move refugees.
Yeah.
So,
But I'm going to be very interested to learn, to hear what Kwaku learns at this 3-day meeting coming up.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Sure.
And Alvia's point about it being two-way is very, very important. There are a lot of people planning for the future grid where these thousands of electric vehicles are not only sucking energy from the grid, but also standby generators for when the portions of the grid go down.
Yeah.
All right.
I have
Anything
a question for
Yes.
Kwaku. Is the city transportation system supporting Anne Arundel County schools right now with their sort of school bus crisis? And I was wondering if they are, how long, so do you anticipate that support? And is there anything that we can do as a transportation board?
Well, we work with the Office of Transportation in the county and the county school board in several meetings. I think the past week or so came out with a plan to use the existing network to help move people. And effective day for that one actually is today. So when I went to the office, especially we have people who come from the county to go to Bates Middle School. So the idea was that they would get the yellow or the gold bus, come to the mall, and you transfer them. In fact, we made a provision for additional backup bus just to be at the mall in case we have influx of students. And this morning we didn't pick any students. But the plan is in place. We work with the county school board and with the Office of Transportation, came up with a plan using the existing transit network of both the city and the county. We also have people who will be taking the brown or the green or the red, and they are all available as of now. So hopefully by the end of this week, it will catch up, and then the parents will know that there is an alternative for you to basically ask the students to take, especially for the high school. In fact, the county even made a provision for additional bus from the mall to the high school in the morning and in the afternoon. According to them, they pick up only one student. So the plan is there. Patronage at this time is not, perhaps because today is the first day. So over time, people will get to know of it. What we don't know is how long will this go on, but because we didn't design a specific route for that, they can still use the existing transportation bus services to go back to or from school.
Okay. Is there any other new business? Hearing nothing. Thank you so much for your participation today. We covered a fairly broad range of topics with enthusiasm and intelligence. Thanks so much. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Okay, second.
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 All in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Again, thanks so much, everybody.
See you Sunday.
Yes. Bye.
I'm coming. I want to find out about that electric ferry.